Alrighty, guys. Tron is a franchise that I think it's one of those franchises that I think could translate super well into the modern age, quote unquote modern age, with modern CGI and visual effects leaps and all sorts of wonderful things that have been accomplished in the past 10, 20 years with visual effects. I think Tron is a franchise that could really stand to benefit from it. So when they announced a couple years ago that they were bringing the franchise back with a third installment, Tron Ares, I was actually quite excited. For those of you who are either old enough to remember or who have seen the film since, there was actually a second film that came out about 10, 15 years ago called Tron Legacy. Because the original Tron film came out in the 80s, I think, with Jeff Bridges. And I was certainly not old enough to have seen the film at that point, but I do remember going to the theater to see Tron Legacy. And I think I saw it at least 2 times in theaters, if not more. Now, I was much younger at that point, so I wasn't really interested in story, or I didn't have a big understanding of anything. But what really grabbed my attention, I remember, was the visuals. Even for 2012 or 10 or whenever that film came out, it was visually, it grabbed your attention. It really was a spectacle in the best sense. I think the light bikes and the grid and everything about the way that that franchise establishes its visual language is remarkable. And so, again, just given the advancements in technology, given the advancements in visual effects, I thought, okay, well, let's bring back Tron and let's see what we can do. So, again, they announced Tron Ares, and they announced Jared Leto was going to be the lead. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a huge fan of Jared Leto in general as an actor. I know he's done some really fantastic work in Oscar-caliber movies such as Dallas Buyers Club, but you know, for those of us who are in the blockbuster movie space, you know, this is Access Blockbusters for the most part, although we talk about Oscar movies and award contenders and things like that. And I think, you know, again, just on a tangent, those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive, right? Black Panther Wakanda Forever, for example. I would, you know, consider a lot of those big films, Barbie and Oppenheimer. So there is that. But anyways, you know, Jared Leto in the blockbuster space, Morbius, Suicide Squad, I think he was okay in Blade Runner 2049, to be fair. I didn't hate him in Blade Runner 2049, but not my favorite part. So whenever he shows up in these things, it doesn't really work for me. But that being said, you know, he's a good actor in general. He's kind of a controversial actor in the acting choices he makes, but he's generally regarded as a good actor. So I was interested in the choice of Jared Leto to play the lead in Tron Ares. And so then we didn't really hear much, but then recently at CinemaCon, they did a little bit of a presentation on Tron Ares, and then shortly after that, they released the first trailer, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I have to say, first of all, before we even get into the trailer at all, I didn't even realize that Jeff Bridges was coming back until CinemaCon, because I read the description of the CinemaCon panel, and they said Jeff Bridges and Jared Leto both came out to talk about the film, which I was really pleasantly surprised, because I think Jeff Bridges, I remember him saying somewhere recently that he wasn't going to be acting a whole lot, maybe for health reasons or something like that. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard, at least, or that's what I remember hearing. And so seeing that he's coming back as, I want to say Clue, was that the character's name? It's been such a long time since I've seen Tron Legacy, guys. It's been such a long time, but I was really glad to see that he was going to come back for Tron Ares, because, you know, I think it gives the franchise a sense of continuity. And not just the idea of, oh, this is just going to be another film in the universe, but it's not really related. It's kind of related, you know, just like how Harrison Ford came back to Blade Runner 2049 as Deckard, so that it felt like it was part of the same franchise, right? If you just do another film in the franchise, aside from that, and just have different actors, it doesn't really feel like it's all part of one universe. So I really was pleased to see that. I don't think we really see him in the trailer, but we hear his voice, and I think that that's really cool. And let's just talk about the trailer. The trailer, rightfully so, because it's a teaser trailer, it's coming out in October, was mostly about visuals and a general basic premise, because the text that comes on in between the trailer shots says something like worlds will collide. So that's my question, right, is what is this film gonna be about? And, you know, I think most of Tron Legacy took place within the grid, and then I think at the very end they get out of the grid. And I was wondering, is this going to be, you know, because at the beginning of the trailer, it almost seems like the Tron bikes are out in the real world. So I was thinking, okay, what's going on here? And then I think we see some shots later on that are very much in the grid. And so then the text comes up that says worlds will collide. So I think this is going to be very much that classic trope of, you know, the two dimensions are coming together. The whatever dimension, I guess now the grid is coming into the real world, and what's going to happen? You know, how is everything going to react when all these different things are colliding with one another? And I think that's an interesting premise, right? Again, it's not the most original thing, but that's okay. I mean, it is what it is. But mostly, I mean, the Tron visuals are back. I love the opening shots of the light bike just cutting through the car. because it's such a distinct and unique visual style with the trail, the rectangle trail of light that can cut through things, behind the light bikes. I think that's so cool. It's awesome. And so everything I saw from the trailer visually looks great. Jared Leto looks like a more serious version of Jared Leto, which I can appreciate. And I think everything I saw in the trailer looks kind of insane. And honestly, when I go into a film like Tron Ares, I'm not looking for, the Knives Out or the Gone Girls or, the really just mind-bending inceptions and tenets of the world. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a story that serves the film well, looking for actors that serve the story well, and then really just looking for a good time and just seeing what the visuals can do. And so far, the trailer seems to be promising all of that. So I'm excited. I think that Tron Ares was a film that I was mostly curious about, with potential to do really well. And now that I've seen a trailer and I've seen kind of the proof of concept, I'm actually quite excited for the film. So guys, what do you think about the first teaser trailer for Tron Ares? Have you seen the original film and the sequel Tron Legacy? And if so, what do you think about those? And what do you think about the trailer for the third film, Tron Ares? Let me know in the comments down below.